Good evening. We'll go ahead and get started as we have folks continuing to join us. Thank you for joining us tonight for our October episode of Celebrating the Art and Culture of Kentucky, Some of the Bluegrass is Black. My name is Emily Moses, and I'm the Executive Staff Advisor for the Kentucky Arts Council. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the fifth installment of this series that celebrates Black and African American artists who live in and create art across the disciplines and in a vast array of forms relating to the lands we inhabit in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. This series is one of several initiatives supported through a grant from the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation to enhance and increase the State Arts Agency's work toward racial and cultural equity in the arts sector in Kentucky. I want to note that throughout tonight's program, we invite you to use the chat to join the conversation and ask questions. You can also submit questions through the Q&A feature in Zoom. Additionally, if you're watching on our Facebook live stream, you can submit questions there that will be sent over to us to share with our panelists. Live transcription is also available in Zoom for this presentation if you click the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen. It is always my pleasure to welcome our series host of Celebrating the Art and Culture of Kentucky, Some of the Bluegrass is Black, Lexington-based poet, scholar, and professor Dr. Shauna M. Morgan, an expert in the field of Africana literature and culture. I thank Dr. Morgan for her insight and assistance in developing these programs and for leading us through a series of in-depth, intimate, and thought-provoking conversations. We are nearing the end of our series with only 1 month left, and we thank you for joining us tonight and hope you will join us again in November as we together celebrate Black artists living and working in Kentucky. I am positively giddy about tonight's interview, so why don't we stop listening to me and get started. Please welcome Dr. Shauna Morgan.
Thank you, Emily. I join you in that giddiness. I'm thrilled to be here. Good evening, friends. Thank you for joining us for the fifth conversation in the series, Celebrating the Art and Culture of Kentucky, Some of the Bluegrass is Black. It is a rainy autumn day here in central Kentucky. I'm joining you from Lexington, which is located on the original homeland of diverse Native peoples such as the Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw, and Osage, who arrived over 10,000 years ago. The most recent among them were the Shawnee. Today, Kentucky is still home to over 25,000 Native people representing scores of tribal groups. We must recognize the violence, including the deliberate and systematic destruction and ongoing colonialism endured by these indigenous communities. I also greet you in honor of the enslaved who lived in this very place where I now sit in the east end of Lexington, Kentucky. And I bring personal greetings in honor of my enslaved ancestors, likely Akan and Igbo people from the island of Jamaica. I am so honored to have with us this evening the dynamic and stunningly talented Alicia Helm and Dr. Everett Mccorvey. Dr. Everett Mccorvey and Alicia Helm Mccorvey have been married more than 30 years and have together spent their lives, home, family, and musical careers in Kentucky. The Mccorveys have played important roles in promoting opera, voice, and the performing arts throughout the Commonwealth and around the globe. A native of Bronx, New York, Alicia Helm Mccorvey has a bachelor's degree from Indiana University in music and Deutsch, German, and a master's degree in music from New York University. She completed the coursework for a Doctor of Musical Arts from the University of Kentucky. After graduating from college, Alicia, a soprano, sang in the chorus of the Metropolitan Opera of New York, where she met Everett Mccorvey during a production of Porgy and Bess. She performs in Kentucky with UK Opera Theater, Woodford Theater, and the Lexington Philharmonic Orchestra. Alicia is a founding member of Women in Philanthropy, a group of women who raised scholarship funds for University of Kentucky students in need. She has served on the advisory board of the International Book Group and the board of Central Kentucky Youth Orchestra. Alicia supports several nonprofit organizations and has endowed a vocal studio at the Schmidt Vocal Arts Center at the University of Kentucky. She is a major contributor to Boardroom at the Northside branch of the Lexington Public Library in honor of her librarian father. Alicia is currently the artist in residence at Good Shepherd Episcopal Church in Lexington. Dr. Everett Mccorvey is Endowed Professor of Voice and the holder of the Lexington Opera Society Endowed Chair in Opera Studies at the University of Kentucky. He received his degrees, including a Doctor of Musical Arts from the University of Alabama. McCorvey has given concerts, master classes, and workshops throughout the United States, Europe, and Asia as a soloist and with his wife. He is founder and music director of the American Spiritual Ensemble, a group of professional singers from across the US and Canada. The group has toured the US and Europe, including 9 tours of Spain, performing concerts of spirituals and other works by African-American composers. McCorvey's career has been distinguished by many awards. He has received the Acorn Award from the Kentucky Advocates for Higher Education. He has received the Outstanding Faculty Award from the University of Kentucky Lyman T. Johnson Alumni Association and the Outstanding Alumni Award in the Arts from the Society of for Fine Arts at the University of Alabama. A former board member of the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies, a service organization that empowers state arts agencies by offering strategic assistance that fosters leadership, enhances planning and decision-making, and increases resources. Dr. McCorvey now serves as vice chair of the Kentucky Arts Council Board of Directors. The McCorveys have 3 children, Elizabeth, Julia, and David. They live here in Lexington. Welcome to you both. We are so pleased that you've joined us this evening. Hello, hello.
Hi there, how are you?
Very well, so glad to have you. We will go right in. We're gonna go ahead and begin with a clip. I'd love to start with a clip. For those folks in the audience who've not seen you perform together, we're gonna go ahead and start with a clip of Stranger in Paradise from 2008.
Take my hand, I'm a stranger in paradise, all lost in a wonderland, a stranger in paradise. If I seem starry-eyed, that's a danger in paradise, for mortals who stand beside an angel like you. I saw your face, and I ascended out of the common place into the rare, somewhere in space. I hang suspended until I know there's a chance that you'll care. Won't you answer a stranger's prayer to the stranger in paradise? Don't leave me in dark despair, for but open your angel's arms to a stranger in paradise and tell him that he need be a stranger no more.
I saw your face, and I ascended out of the common place into the rest.
Somewhere in space, my hands suspended to the moment I know there's a chance that you
Of a stranger in paradise.
Don't leave me in dark despair for all that I hunger for, but open your angel's arms to a stranger in paradise and tell me that he a stranger no
Wonderful. So this song, of course, has innumerable renditions, but your duet, however, it seems to capture and evoke the power of its original composition, right? The idea of love's otherworldliness, this spiritual beauty that we have or see or feel in love. Can you tell us a little bit about this experience when you're at once in this beautiful, intimate moment together with your spouse, but you're performing for the public? What's that like? And I'll start with Alicia.
It's funny that you should ask that. Often people will ask us, so do the two of you just go around the house all day singing to each other? Is that what you all are doing at home? Not always, although if you ask our kids, we do seem to have a lot more singing going on than the average family. But it is easier to do a love duet with someone that you've been with at this point 35 years, had 3 kids with, and been through so many of life's experiences with. And then, of course, sometimes, if they leave the cap off the toothpaste and you're mad and you have to fake it in performance, that happens.
Everett?
Well, that's really funny. I leave the cap off of the toothpaste quite often. But yes, it's a lot of, it's something that I work with my students with all the time, and it's truth in performing. And I think that when we perform, we all work to try to find truth. And so one of the things that's so wonderful about singing with Alicia is that there's truth in the words. And so it makes the words easier to say and to communicate because there's truth behind the words. And, we've been performing duets for so many years and have been together. And so, and we enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And most times, if I forget the words, Alicia just sort of makes them up and goes on. And then I have to try to match whatever she said. And so we have a lot of fun. we enjoy it.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so interested in hearing about, what's been most rewarding about this partnership. But, your partners in life and work, are there things that challenge your collaborations artistically or otherwise?
Well, I will say, have you ever read the book, Men Are From, what is it? Men Are From Mars and
Women Are From Venus.
Women Are From Venus. Yeah, that's our relationship.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. So if I have an idea, I can pretty sure if I have a musical idea, I'm pretty sure Alicia's going to have the opposite idea. And
Well, another one of the challenges is we both have strong opinions, and Everett's used to being the boss in so many places, but not always here. So we have to negotiate, and that's something that, any couple, any group of people working together have to negotiate at some point on something. And so we try to find a way to bring our ideas together, to find a place where it meets and works, or we find another song.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Now, one of your most moving collaborations, for me at least, is the American Spiritual Ensemble. And I'm so thrilled to see that there will be touring happening again starting in February. And I'm going to ask Emily to put the link in the chat and on Facebook so folks can go and see where you'll be and when. Of course, we know that music, specifically in the church, was a significant part of your early years. Everett, you at First Baptist in Montgomery. And Everett, you have even called spirituals, quote, the mother music. Can you tell us a little bit about the founding of ASE and why was it important that this be a part of your work? And I'll start with Everett first.
Well, thank you for asking that question and mentioning ASE. I'm happy to say that we are celebrating, I think this will be our 27th year of touring. And when I was a child, I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, and my mother was in the AME church and my father was in the Baptist church. And my father's church, First Baptist Church, was the church where Reverend David Abernathy was the minister. And that was very exciting for me because I didn't know at the time, obviously, that it was going to be such an historic experience. But we lived just a few blocks from Martin Luther King when he was in Montgomery. And Martin Luther King loved spirituals, and I heard spirituals throughout my entire growing up. In my father's church and my mother's church, we sang anthems, we sang spirituals, we sang hymns. Really didn't sing gospel music until really I was about to go away to high school. So it was really in the 70s, mid 70s, before gospel music was introduced in my mother's church. And but spirituals, we heard them every Sunday. And so when I started pursuing a career in music, I noticed that the classical spirituals were not being performed as much. My aunt was in the choir at Tuskegee Institute under William Dawson, and she had many albums of the Tuskegee Institute choir, and I would hear that sound that they would make, and it just moved me in just such special, unique ways. And so after college, and I was starting to pursue my career, I realized that choirs were not programming spirituals as much, and gospel music was taking hold, and gospel music was very popular, and so I wanted to make sure that these spirituals were not lost, because from these spirituals, grew, we found what I will call the American sound. And so I felt that if these spirituals are lost, a part of our history in this country would be lost. And I wanted to make sure that that didn't happen. So in 1995, I called some of my friends and colleagues that I'd made during my time in New York. And I found that they were also committed to keeping this music alive. And so we started touring in 1995, and we've been touring ever since. And so, and it's just amazing how the response that we've received from people all over the world about this music.
Yes, you have traveled all over the world with ASC, and I'll go to Alicia for this follow-up question, and specifically because you worked in Europe, in Germany. Was there anything surprising or particularly impactful about performing with the ASC outside of the US context? Is there a moment or a memory that still resonates for you today, Alicia?
I had the pleasure of performing with ASC in Brazil. That was and in Spain. Those were the two major places that I've been out of the country with them, although they have been to other countries as well. The thing that is so wonderful and exciting is the audience's response to the spirituals, which, they make us feel like rock stars singing spirituals in those different countries. The music, the arrangements, Moses Hogan and some other arrangements that we have, that we've used, Joseph Joubert, and different folks whose arrangements are so beautiful of these different melodies. And Everett has a master ear for putting together ensembles that produce beautiful sounds. He goes for beautifully trained voices, and then he lets us sing, which is always a pleasure. And when you're singing the spirituals with that touch us so much emotionally, in terms of our faith and all, in addition to the beautiful melodies, it's an easy sell, and the audiences love it. We get such fabulous response to singing this music overseas and here.
And I have to say that you mentioned at the beginning about our tours. I think we've gone. This coming summer, I think, will be our 17th tour of Spain, and it just is amazing to me, especially there, that the music has been so popular. But I think that what I have found in the other countries is that people don't understand the words all the time, but the melodies are so hauntingly beautiful that the melodies speak to the people. The way the melodies are presented speak to the people. And so I think that that's one of the reasons that it has endured. And, it doesn't matter if it's a black choir or a white choir. Any choir from America that goes to spiritual, goes to Europe or any part of the world, typically will program a spiritual because the spirituals are so unique in other countries. Spirituals are something that were born in America, and no other country in the world can lay claim to this music. But countries around the world want to hear this music. They want to experience the power of this music. And so it's been very exciting to be able to take this music all over the world.
Wonderful.
Well, and composers continue to make new arrangements of these century-old melodies. So it's the different arrangements often speak to the different times. So they update the sound of the arrangement, so then it speaks to another generation. And the American Spiritual Ensemble has had the pleasure of having arrangements done as recently as last year, this year, an arranger and composer in Nebraska, the First Plymouth Church there, and Everett might remember his name before I do.
Marquez Garrett.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
she does this to me all the time. She'll say, yes, it happened. And then she looks to me to fill in the blank. And I'm thinking, okay, brain.
And he does it beautifully. That's why I can trust him. But yeah, these melodies that are centuries old continue to find new arrangements that then speak to another generation. And so it keeps the music fresh.
Absolutely. And just to see the evolution of that, it brings me to my next question, actually, is a segue. In her book, Black Opera, History, Power, and Engagement, this is Naomi Andre. She is exploring how operas have meaning for current audiences. And, in much the same way that the spiritual can sort of evolve and shift to change, but remain resonant with a new composition. She's thinking about opera and its significance in much the same way. And she says that she's thinking about how operas have meaning for current audiences. What she says is, quote, an approach that brings together opera in historical context and focuses on how it resonates in the present day with audiences beyond those that we would imagine in an opera house, right? She's focused on the possibility that might come with a new arrangement or what have you. And it calls to mind Bounce, the basketball opera that was here in Lexington. I had the pleasure of seeing it about 3.5 years ago. And that possibility of an expanded audience keeps coming back to me, particularly a Black audience for opera. And I'm wondering, how do you see productions like Bounce, for example, opening up a possibility for a Black opera audience that would also engage something that we would see as sort of more classical even? And I'll go to Everett first.
Well, I will say that Bounce was an amazing experience because we took the whole world of basketball and tried to have a marriage of the two audiences. And Bounce is still going on, and I have a meeting in the morning actually about a new collaboration up in New York of Bounce, and so but that's happening more and more. Most people know. Who follow opera, that the Metropolitan Opera just premiered a new work called Fire Shut Up in My Bones.
Blanchard.
And by Terence Blanchard. And it took, a very, very current theme and introduced it created an opera around it, and then introduced that theme in that more contemporary setting to a new audience. And what was so amazing about Fire Shut Up in My Bones is that it even had a step dance in it by the Kappa Alpha Psi. And so I saw an interview last night with the president of Kappa Alpha Psi, and they were saying, well, how did you like seeing your, step dancing in the opera? That's something that's never been done at the Metropolitan Opera. And so I think that a whole new generation of young people are now coming to opera because of productions like Fire Shut Up in My Bones. Last year, it was Porgy and Bess at the Metropolitan Opera that just broke all of the sales records. And so many people were so excited about it. But there's a whole new generation of young people that are now not only being introduced to opera, but participating in opera at the highest levels. And when Alicia and I were performing back in the 80s in Porgy and Bess, I remember seeing an interview with Jesse Norman. And I think, Alicia, you were probably in that production of Les Troyens that Jesse Norman was in. And they were interviewing her about the operas at that time, that was in the 80s. And they said, well, how do you feel when you look out and the audience is all, white, and a lot of your people are not coming to see this opera. And she said something that I've never forgotten. And she says, if we want to support ourselves, we need to see ourselves. And so, she was saying that if you want to, you will get the support if the people see themselves on the stage.
Yes.
And that's exactly what's happening now. The Metropolitan is getting more support. There's more support for opera because we're beginning to see a more diverse look on the stage. And that's quite exciting.
Well, just for financial reasons, it makes sense to expand your audience. I often see articles that seem surprised to see that different minority groups have dollars that they will spend for entertainment and fine cuisine and travel. And so it makes sense for a business to tap into that. Because if you want to grow, if we want to keep opera alive, if you want things to continue, you need to find a way to expand the audience.
And you both have had a direct hand, because of your work. Kentucky, right, is known for opera. In fact, it is, some might say, the exemplar of operatic arts, right? But we know that Kentucky has not always been nurturing for Black folks in the arts. I can't ask a question or think about opera without considering people like Todd Duncan, for example, who my spouse would say, he was born in Danville, Kentucky, which is my hometown. But Todd Duncan had to leave Kentucky for his art, right? And we can talk about the time and the moment and so forth. Duncan was Gershwin's first Porgy. He was the premier, right? And Everett, your first role, right, was in Porgy and Bess. And so you could build and collaborate in so many different places. Alicia, you are a native of New York. What keeps you or has kept you in the Commonwealth? And I'll start with Alicia.
I think one of the very basic reasons that our roots are here is that Everett's at the University of Kentucky, and he loves his work there. We have found the community to be so hospitable. There are so many lovers of the arts, and I often tell people the reason that the arts can thrive here is because you attend, because you buy the tickets, because you show up. That means that we can continue to live here because what we value is also important to so much of the community here. All of our children were born here and got fine educations, and we've had a great quality of life here. And so that has anchored us. We have found that, as so many people have said, so many of our friends will say, you can get there from here. You can get anywhere from here. And often we'll perform somewhere else, and then we're delighted to come back here. Maybe we'll get to do that same show here for another audience. We have folks in our audiences who see shows in Austria, in Russia, in Italy, and feel that the quality of what they're seeing here in Lexington is comparable. That's a huge compliment, a compliment to the talent that's here, to the work that Everett and so many of the folks here in the community are doing.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say that it's been a wonderful marriage of what I love to do and am able to do, and the support that we've received from the university and from the community. I remember when I first arrived here, one of my first meetings with the director of the School of Music at the time, his name was Harry Clark. He said to me, I want to build a national program in voice. And I said, well, if you want to build a national or international program in voice, you've got to have a national or international program in opera, because the best voices want to sing opera. And so Harry was very supportive in the faculty and administration in helping us to recruit some of the best voice teachers and coaches. The first recruit that we had here was Cliff Jackson, who is a vocal coach. And if people don't know what a vocal coach is, I'm a voice teacher, for instance. So I will teach, I will help a person to sing higher notes, lower notes, to sing on the breath and sing without strain and all of those things. Then we pass them over to a vocal coach who has to know all of the languages, French, German, Italian, Spanish, have to know all of the styles in that language. And so the first person that we hired was Cliff Jackson. And so Cliff is as much a part of this success as anything we've done here, because I've been able not only to work with the students, but then have a partner, a collaborator that I can say, okay, now let's make sure that this person's German is the best, that this person's Italian is the best, that they sing Verdi with all of the styles that Verdi sings, or Mozart with all of the styles. And so we have a wonderful voice faculty that's a diverse voice faculty, and they're able to work. We have now 3 vocal coaches who help in the same way that Cliff started in terms of helping the students to prepare. And the result is what happened last year in Porgy and Bess, where we had 8 of our graduates at the Metropolitan Opera making their debut in Porgy and Bess. And this year in Fire Shut Up in My Bones, we had 6 of our alums in that show. That's just unheard of. And to have so many students, especially students of color, making those sort of debuts at the world's greatest opera house is quite exciting. And so it's been a team effort with, the people here at the university. The community has been so supportive, and it takes all of that, as Alicia was saying, in order to make the success happen. So we're very excited about that.
Wonderful, wonderful. So rewarding. And as a teacher who's constantly thinking about her own pedagogy, I was really moved to hear you. I'm always moved to hear you talk about your students, but hearing the reasons for you starting the Grand Night, for example, as a way sort of, as a benefit to your students is really inspiring. And I'm wondering, to what extent does your pedagogy, your teaching, shape your artistic work and vice versa?
I will say that the students give me life, and I will never forget a phrase that Alex Haley said. We had the opportunity to know him when Alicia and I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee. And one of the phrases that he said he would say all the time is, find the good and praise it. And so I look for these wonderfully talented kids who just need an opportunity to, in a place where their talents can be nurtured and developed and then sent on into the world. And so, and what we try to do here is we try to also bring in other faculty members who have that as their goal, to nurture these amazing talents. And I would say when we moved to Kentucky, one of the things that was so impressive for us is just the level of talent that's in the state, from all parts of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It's some talented people. And so what I wanted to do was take that talent and then mix it with talents from other states and from other countries, so that we could all bring these personalities and cultures together so that everybody could see the possibilities if they worked really hard and committed themselves, so that they can then move to the next levels. And that's something that's been very exciting for me. And I think all of the students will tell you that even though they go away and do things at the highest level all over the world, they all want to come back to Kentucky. They're all trying to convince me that surely there's a job at the university.
Wonderful.
Because Lexington's a great place to live.
Yes, yes. I want to go to Alicia about this question of teaching as well. And I want to share a clip of Alicia as Carmen, and it was so hard to choose which one because your presence on stage is so enthralling. And I chose the one in which you were performing along with the chorus because in many ways you are at once performing and immersed in your art, but also teaching at the same time on the stage. And I'm really interested in that dynamic. And so I want us to see the clip first, but I want to know if you also see yourself as a teacher on or off the stage. But let's go ahead and see Alicia as Carmen. Wonderful, wonderful. So I told you, enthralling. I have to gather my watching that. But I do want to know, do you see yourself as a teacher when you are performing? Or is there a clear delineation between yourself as a performer, even when you're with students on stage?
That's a good question. I think that for me, when I'm performing, I like to feel more collaborative in terms of working with the other performers to create a space, to create a world, to tell a story. Everett is a natural born teacher. He loves teaching. That is his thing. For me, maybe after having 3 children go through the house and always being an example, I do enjoy teaching. I also find it exhausting. It takes so much out of you to instruct and guide and share that love. And so they're different in so many ways for me. So teaching, I feel like I'm giving so much more away. When I'm performing, I'm trying to create something to then give to an audience. Maybe that's sort of the same thing.
Well, you know, I think also it's the students love to see her perform, and I think it's because, again, that commitment of challenging everybody to be better because you are around, you know, you're around her. And I was just looking at that clip that you had of Carmen with Alicia singing, and all of the students around her have gone on to do amazing things. The young man who flirting with her at the beginning is now the executive director of the Governor's School for the Arts, Nick Koval. And the lady who was trying to take him away is Amelia Gretsch, who is the executive director of the Central Kentucky Youth Orchestra, and Jeremy Cady, the lieutenant, is now a singer with the U.S. Soldiers Chorus. They went on to do amazing things. And again, it's that bringing everybody else around you up and challenging them to meet you at this higher standard. And I think that's what she brings to the audiences and to the stage.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have to be mindful of the time. I know there are folks burning to ask you questions, but I'm interested. Is there something that you have not yet done together or apart that you dream about doing musically or otherwise?
You want to take that one, Alicia?
Throwing it to you.
Well, I love doing musical theater, and I had the pleasure of doing The Addams Family with Woodford Theater. I got to do Hello Dolly here in town with the Lexington Theater Company. I would love to do Hello Dolly again. I'd love to do MAME. I love to dance and sing. I love going on tour with the spiritual ensemble because there Everett can definitely be the boss. All I have to do is sing, rest up, sing again, rest up, put on my gown and sing some more. So I look forward to more performing. Right now I am the artist in residence at Good Shepherd Episcopal Church here in Lexington with Dr. Matilda Middleton. And I am thoroughly enjoying that. We've gone through some great music. We've got different ideas of things we want to do and collaborations we want to have here in town. So that is one of my current excitements. And so I want to, I take dulcimer classes in the summer at Berea when they offer them because we're in Kentucky. So I thought, okay, let's do it. I'm hoping to have a dulcimer group play over there. I belong to a recorder group. I hope that we'll get to do that. It's there are a lot of things I look forward to doing, performing, continuing to do, and see where we can take them.
We look forward to all of it. Thank you.
Well, and I guess the things that I look forward to doing are I feel like I'm in a third and fourth career because I came here to teach voice, and that was what I was doing. And then I took over the opera program, and so I started producing opera, and I found that I loved producing, and that was a lot of fun. And now I'm doing a lot of conducting of opera and of symphonies, and that's exciting. I have a choir in New York called the National Chorale, and I'm in my sixth season there, and we present our concerts at Lincoln Center in New York, and that's been exciting and has led to a lot of European offers to conduct and perform, and I'm also now starting to stage direct a little bit and do a little bit of that. I'm directing Porgy and Bess in Greensboro with the Greensboro Opera, and so one of the most exciting times in probably my time here in Lexington was when we when Lexington and Kentucky hosted the World Equestrian Games. And I served as the producer of the opening and closing ceremony. And that was the collaboration and the support of Alltech. And that's been a major force in this, in our community and in this country and the world. And so I think I look forward to more collaborations with Alltech and more collaborations with people who have big dreams and big visions and want to make exciting things happen for our country. One of the phrases that I say all the time is more art, fewer wars. Because what happens is people get to know each other, and they get to know each other through this beautiful collaborative form and realize that we really all want the same things in life. We want to be able to provide for our families. We want to be able to have a wonderful place to live. We want to have friends that we can share with and make music and collaborate. And the arts bring people together in that manner like no other art form does and no other form does. And so I just hope that we can continue to dream in Kentucky, thinking of big projects where we get to bring our communities together for common causes and good causes, and then share that with the world so we can stop this fighting and polarization that's going on and find the good and common ground in all people so that our nation and our world can move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you to you both for taking this time out of your very busy schedules to be with us together and to just share with us a little bit about the beauty of your professional and personal lives together. We're so grateful to have had this time with you, and we have 3 minutes, and I'm gonna see what questions we have here. I've selfishly taken up all the time with mine. We have a question about Grand Night and families, and earlier, let's see here. We have a question from someone who's concerned about being a white person singing in choirs. 40 years of experience, and finding it increasingly difficult to sing spirituals because of the language, and is concerned that, you know, this may be racist or offensive in some way, as if pretending to be Black. And she wants to know, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I have very strong thoughts about that because I get that question probably more than I get any other question, you know, is should white people be singing spirituals, and are we co-opting the culture by doing that? And I will say that this is American music. Spirituals are American music. They were born in this country. They were born in a difficult time in our country. But now this is American music, and it should be sung by all. This music will not survive if it's not sung by all. And so that's what's more important to me. And we have this discussion with the American Spiritual Ensemble. I tend to update the language so that the language is not a barrier to presenting this music, because a lot of white choirs especially will feel like, well, I don't speak like that, and so I don't really feel I can sing this music. Well, guess what? I don't speak like that either, and I'm Black. And so what we do is we update the music, we update the language so that the stories, the intent of this music is not lost, because that story that this music tells is part of our American history. And so if we don't tell this story, we're leaving out an important part of American history. So I encourage everyone to sing these songs, celebrate these songs. And if there's a word or a few words that are uncomfortable, talk with the conductor and say, what is the current trend in singing these words in this manner? And then I'm sure we can come to a common ground where the choir will feel comfortable singing that, because it's more important to sing this music than to leave it out just because of the barrier of some of the words.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think our final question, since we're right at 7 o'clock, has to do with one of the most anticipated events every year, the Grand Night. Emily wants to know if you can talk a bit about what it's like to have been embraced by so many families and generations of people, that this has become such an important part of people's lives. And what does that mean to you both?
It's a wonderful, to have that be a tradition here in Lexington over so many years is incredible. It is pretty much, outside of sport events, one of the most attended events in Lexington. And there was one year where Everett and I did not do a duet. I can't tell you how many people came up to me and said, "Are you two okay? Is everything all right?" So many folks in the community were concerned, but it is wonderful. There are often children in the cast who go from the small children's chorus to the older children, and then sometimes even into the adult cast. So to have the community turn out and support Grand Night, and Peggy Stamps, Everett, Hedren, Lindsay, all these people who put together, they listen to tons of music to get those numbers that are in the show that we get to have fun with. And it's fabulous. I love it. I love it. I love it.
You know, we started Grand Night because I wanted to give our students the opportunity to have to show them, to just sort of broaden their world, because a lot of them, you know, say they wanted to sing opera, but really didn't know all of the other possibilities in the performing arts business. And when we first started, you would have thought that I was asking them to go out and shoot their grandmother to be in. They were like, "No, I'm an opera singer." And I'm like, "Well, do you want to work?" And so really what happened was, as the students started experiencing these musical theater numbers, they fell in love with it. And so it's so funny to hear, you know, somebody hear Rodgers and Hammerstein for the first time, and they say, "Oh, is this a new work?" And I'm thinking, but it was also a way to introduce the opera program to the community, because I knew that I learned very early that Broadway and musical theater was very popular in the community. And so I thought, what better way to meet the community than by presenting this show. So it was Jim Rogers, who's a professor emeritus in theater, and myself, and we got together and created Grand Night for Singing. And it has just been a wonderful event. When people meet me in the grocery store, they usually will introduce themselves and tell me how many years they've been to Grand Night. Then we can start with the rest of the conversation. And that's just wonderful. That just melts my heart, because I'm so happy that the audience and the community has embraced it. And I look forward to this year, which will be our 30th anniversary. And it's going to be on campus in the Singletary Center. So people can get your tickets March 10th, 11th, and 12th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 2021. Get your tickets.
22.
22. That's right. That's right. 2022. And but we're looking forward to it, and it's a great joy.
What a wonderful return that will be for our community. Thank you again so much for spending this time with us. And we look forward to many, many, many more years of music from you both. Thank you so much. Thanks to our friends for joining us. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.